Welcome to the Occult Rejects. Tonight on the Occult Rejects, we're sitting down with Cyrus Ryan. He is a teacher, lecturer, and longtime practitioner of structured esoteric group work with decades in the trenches of the inner path. His work sits at an intersection. A lot of people talk around, but rarely explain plainly what happens when occultism stops being aesthetic and becomes discipline, training, mantra, service, and the hard mechanics of transformation. Cyrus Ryan is a Canadian esoteric author, artist, lecturer, and teacher associated with a long-running Toronto-based esoteric group and with his own organization, the Northern Esoteric School of Wisdom. Across multiple bios, he describes 40 years plus exploring esoteric traditions, including decades of group work experience, plus travel and time spent in India and Tibet with a focus on esoteric Buddhism and Vajrayana practice and related inner disciplines. He's also been listed as having lectured for groups at the Theosophical Society, the Association for Higher Awareness, and the New Jersey Metaphysical Society and the University of Seven Rays, and has published articles in New Age periodicals, often cited as the Beacon. Cyrus's new book, Esoteric Writings, Teachings for the Aquarian Age, is presented as a set of teachings drawn from long-term group practice, how inner work is actually organized, how mantra and formula operate in a living tradition, and what it means to treat the esoteric path like something you do, not just something you collect. So I'm very happy to have him on. Before we introduce him and let him say what's up, we're going to introduce the other rejects. I got Judith the Loon with me. What's going on, Judith? How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to have this discussion with you, Cyrus. And you could find me on YouTube and on X as The Loon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And my man, Magus, what is up, sir?
What's up, Nick? I'm so happy to be here with you again. It feels like a lifetime, even though it's only been a few days.
I know. It's like a while, though. Yeah,
I know. I'm grateful to be here. This is going to be a great topic. I'm so happy to meet you, sir. We got all kinds of questions, so this is going to be pretty fire. Make sure everyone checks me out at Magus in the Media, YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe, like, and share. We go deep. We go deep all the time. Let's go deep tonight. Let's get it done.
Hell yeah. And thank you very much for joining. I always appreciate you making it on.
Of course.
And Kaiva, what is going on? Thank you so much for making it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's wonderful to meet you, Cyrus. I look forward to having this conversation. You can find me at Kaiva Rose on Instagram and YouTube. I'm an astrologer and a tarot reader, and I do weekly astrology and daily astrology videos as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for coming on. And finally, Cyrus, if there was anything that I missed or whatever, or if you'd like to plug a website or whatever, please let everybody know where they can find all your amazing work. And just,
that was a good introduction. I appreciate it. Nice to meet each one of you. It's always nice meeting new people, especially when our interests all overlap and are very similar. It's always great. I'm the director of Northern School of Esoteric Wisdom. The website's basically the same, Northern School of Esoteric Wisdom.com. That's the main one. My books, Esoteric Writings, Teachings for the Aquarian Age. Maybe if I went backwards. That's my newest one. And earlier one, Living on the Inner Edge, a practical occult tale. They're both fairly interesting. I found them interesting, but I wrote them. It took a lot of work. And they're not easy books. To give an example, one of my students said, I found your book a bit interesting. The stories were very interesting, but the teaching was difficult. And then she got back to me a year later, and she said, now that I've studied what you're doing and understand it more, now I really understand your book, and it's really helpful. I've had a few people who have read it and now trying to get it translated and from Brazil and Turkey. And so there's a wealth of knowledge for those that want this depth of occult knowledge. So if you want to move forward, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. No, thank you. And thank you very much for coming on the show.
Actually, I just rethought.
Sure.
I also have, I can mention at the end of every 2 weeks, I have an online Zoom talk called Esoteric Talks. And people can join. They can reach me via Northern School of Esoteric Wisdom. Just go to the contact page. And that way, if you're interested in joining in, there's usually about 20 every week. People from South America, India. Sometimes there's a couple of people coming in from Australia. So we're all over.
Oh, nice. Good for you. Yeah. So I guess just to get into it, what was it? Or what, like, when did you realize, did you have an experience that made you realize you weren't just interested in esotericism, that you were going to like make it your life? Or did you find yourself kind of just teetering that way? Like, at what point did you realize the occult was for you?
Had no idea. No idea. At first, I was at a party long time ago, long time ago. And this lady had just said, I just got back from India and I was at an ashram. When I heard the word ashram, it sparked something in me. It created like a little chill down my spine. And I said to her, wow, that's cool. What's an ashram? What do you do? Oh, you just hang out there. And I said, no, what do you do? Oh, she said, I just hang out there. Well, didn't get very far. But as time, things happen when they're supposed to happen. The next week in Time magazine, there was an article on ashrams in India and all people from North America going there. Wow, that was very interesting. And then I met somebody and they sort of dragged me to yoga. I had no idea what yoga was, but since she at that time became my new girlfriend, I just went along. And I started doing yoga. I started to have experiences. We'd do, the asanas, the different postures, and then sit a little bit in sort of, they called it meditation at that time. And I never tried meditating, but when I closed my eyes, I started to see things and feel like I was moving somewhere. So I went and asked the yoga teacher, what's happening to me? First thing he said, are you on drugs? And I said, no. Right? I said, not at all. Then I knew that yoga teacher didn't know anything regarding something that was deeper. But an interesting thing happened. This was part of the University of Toronto Yoga Club. And they owned a very large retreat, not that far north of Toronto. And they were having a yoga weekend of which I took part. Somehow, this Swami from India who had been in the US was traveling back to India, somehow ended up for a couple of hours at this retreat. There must have been 50 people there. Anyways, the Swami, I'm going to make this really quick, asked if anybody would like to meditate. Out of the 50 people, only 5, myself and 4 others. But this Swami was not an ordinary Swami. First, for an Indian, he was kind of big. But when we started meditating, he projected something that I became visible in my mind. And I could hear his voice pulling me and taking me. And then at a certain point, he says, that's as far as you can go. And it all disappeared. I was naive and, well, a lot younger. I was 24 or something like that. And I didn't know what even to ask him. I tried asking him, he ignored me. But the interesting thing is that his energy, we call Shakti, stayed in me for a month and change, and I could bring up this meditation that he projected. And then I thought, this is really cool, right? Then somebody gave me a book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And reading that, I started to have experiences of Yogananda, etc. And I said, wow, this is fascinating. Then I thought, well, maybe I should look for some other people. So I started looking for a group, and I saw at the local health food store, anyone interested in an esoteric group, occult knowledge, call this number. Oh, so I took one of those, those little where they put the numbers and you just rip it off. This is long before internet, et cetera, et cetera. Phoned the guy, and he said, hi, have you read any books by Alice Bailey? I said, no, never heard of her. Have you been to the Theosophical Society? No, I don't know what that is. Oh, okay, and he hung up. Didn't even say goodbye, just hung up on me. A couple hours later, the phone rang. I picked it up. It was another person saying, if you want to come, we're at the Toronto Theosophical Society, Tuesday nights, whatever. So I went. And when I went, there was this Asian man sitting in a blue blazer, gray pants, typical, very stereotype business thing with a very tall wife. He was short. And there's about 10 other people sitting cross-legged on chairs. Then he brought out this mandala. He called it Atma Vidya and started talking about it. I got such chills and feeling running through me looking at that. I knew that's where I belonged. He became my teacher for 30 odd years. He's been dead now for 15 years. And somehow before he died, he had achieved siddhis, what they call, in his case, mantra shakti. If you came into his presence, you could feel something changing within you. But he only had maybe 10 students, not many. And somehow his lineage, or the force, the Shakti, the energy, was passed to me a couple of years after he passed away. And it makes what's really interesting, he's reincarnated now, and somehow the person was brought to me, not on purpose. They didn't know who he was, but he's now a young lady of about 13 years old, and she likes meditating. He was a food flavorist and was a great cook, and she loves cooking. There's so many things. One time, a cute little story, with the group I have, we have a yearly picnic, and she comes to the picnic, and she's playing cards with my wife and two other ladies. And she can be a little girl, but then all of a sudden she switched and she said, first I taught Cyrus. Now Cyrus, excuse me, teaches you. And then she's back as a little girl. So that's the story. And, then after my teacher died, then it was several years later, things began occultly to happen to me. And took me a long time, and it's difficult because people make claims, and I'm very careful of making claims. In my first book, Living on the Inner Edge, which is written 40 odd years after my first experience of a master of wisdom. People ask me, well, did you search for him? No. Back in the early mid 70s, 1978 to be exact, I guess that's late 70s. I came home late from work. I was an art teacher. You can see some of my paintings in the background there. I was an art teacher and came home, and I had rented this huge home. We were like ex-hippies. My teacher and his family lived there. I lived there. A couple of other students lived there. It was a 3-floor huge place with 3 or 4 bathrooms, etc. And we had a meeting area. We had a meditation room, plus living, and a huge kitchen because my teacher was a great cook. So I came home, and he's having a discussion about the great invocation with the past president of the Toronto Theosophical Society. So I thought I could sit down and listen in. He says, no, just go up to the meditation room and meditate for a while. Okay. So I went up, started to meditate, and then this force, my body became paralyzed. And I could feel like these lines of force running through the top of my head to the base of my spine. And instantly, I knew it was the Master Rakasi. I don't know anything about him at the time, but I knew who it was. So I finished. I came downstairs. The other gentleman had left, told my teacher that I had this experience, and he just reacted, huh, we don't have anything to do with the Master Rakasi. That's not our line. Okay, so I forgot about it. 2 weeks later, my teacher is going to Virginia Beach, you know where the Edgar Cayce Foundation is? And he stopped in Baltimore on the way down to visit a friend before going. And that night, the Master Rakasi appears to him and teaches him a word of power or a mantra given by a master of wisdom, not ordinary. It's interesting. He woke up during this experience and then woke up his little daughter. His wife wouldn't wake up, but his daughter woke up, who's like 4 or 5. And they chant with the master. And then they fall asleep. My teacher wakes up and forgets about it. But the little girl, she wakes up, Daddy, aren't we going to chant some more? Anyways, that word of power went and transformed it, like opened a portal into the higher inner occult worlds that you can't find in books. So for instance, you can go on YouTube and listen to a mantra. Oh, so many. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Namu Shivaya, whatever. Or, what is it? So many you get a bit of energy, but it's like having, say, a hand fan, and that's the energy level. But you get a mantra from a master. It's like sitting in front of a fan that's plugged into the wall that doesn't stop. There's a huge, people don't realize the difference. And I never mentioned that, and we never talked about it out of the group. I didn't talk about it until I wrote my book long after my teacher had already passed away, right? 5 years after he had passed away, that I wrote the book and talk about that. And in that book, it's only mentioned 2 masters. But since then, as I've made progress and some of my new students are very advanced souls, they never heard of Alice Bailey. They never heard of Theosophy. They didn't even hear about the occult. But somehow they were drawn to me through karmic necessity, or what they call ashramic needs on the inner plane. Because, well, I'm old. They when they came, were like 29. We have nothing to do with each other, but they're drawn in. And since then, the Master Rakasi has given 2 more mantrams, one exceedingly powerful. For instance, to give an example, my teacher was highly intelligent. He understood many philosophies. He had his awakening at 16 at a place called Borobudur in Indonesia, which is an ancient Buddhist temple. It's a United Nations UNESCO site now.
Oh, that sucks.
He never got into mantra. I know, it's funny. Anyways, so one day, because he's questioning this mantra, even though it came from the master and he knew what it was, he had a dream where he's sitting in front of a Tibetan tanka. You know those Tibetan paintings that they have in the monasteries? And as he's meditating in front of this tanka, 3 yogis appear out of the tanka before him. And they chant the same mantra, but at different rhythms and notes. And they say one is like the one you're doing now. Then there's one that's related to the advanced masters. And then there's one that's for the Chohans, what are called the lords on the inner plane, showing him the delineation, same words, but through with different influence, their power. So like many people, when they chant, they do what they call japa. You go, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, many, many times. But when you get through a master, it's only a dozen, even 4 or 5 times is too much. It's a big difference. And so your body becomes energized.
Why is that? Mind if I ask you why it's too much?
Because it's like sticking your finger into a socket.
It's too charged, is what you're saying.
Right. So you have to adjust yourself over time. Thus, a real esoteric group is layered or tiered. So with this mantra, I've only given it, in the last few years, I've been given the right to pass it on to about 10 people, not many. And when people come into the group, it's a couple of years before I even bring them into this kind of a field. So they have to adjust. So that's called the probationary field. It's the same. Pythagoras, if you went to the school of Pythagoras, you had to be silent for 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was part of the discipline. That is the probation. See, can you do it? Will you do it? So we live in a city, people have jobs, etc. But I still follow the same model because that's the rule in the occult group. And then, for instance, once I gave 4 or 5 this particular mantra through an initiation process, there's 2 parts to it. I waited another year before they got part B.
So you gave them the first half of the mantra and let them train with it, and then you gave them the second half of the mantra. Is that what do you mean by part B?
I'll explain.
Okay.
First, I gave them the male aspect, and they worked with that. Then I gave them the female aspect.
Interesting.
The yin and the yang. Because what is a mantra? People think it's a bunch of maybe sacred words, something you chant, but a mantra is not that at all. A mantra is the sound body of a deity.
Yeah.
Okay. So a mantra is the deity. So when the Master Rakasi gave us this mantra, he connected us with an expression of the logos through a deity of whose name this mantra is. So the particular mantra is female. Then we were inspired on esoteric for the female aspect of that deity. So you have the yin and the yang.
Yeah. Nice.
And then who is the master? So you have your teacher, and then your teacher, there's somebody above your teacher. Like, who's the master?
Well, the master is the Master Rakasi.
Master Rakasi. Okay.
So he is considered master of all mantras and rituals.
And where does he come from?
So he was known as the Master Saint Germain.
Ah, okay, Saint Germain.
But Saint Germain, he killed him off.
Yeah.
Because he finished that work and then took his name, his Hungarian name, from the House of Rakasi.
Yeah. Is this now, this is stemming through Alice Bailey's work, is what you're telling me, in Lucis Trust. Is that correct?
Okay. So through the books of Alice Bailey, we are not part of any
You're not
aspect.
part of Lucis Trust. No,
Nothing,
you're your own thing.
Yes, 100%.
Nice. Okay, that's cool.
Lucis Trust is an organization that maintains the publishing of these books.
Yeah, and they're part of the UN.
They rent space there.
They rent space there. Can I rent space at the UN?
I'm sure.
That's not even a joke in an occult rejects chair there.
Yeah, I don't know. So I've never been part of that.
Yeah, no, of course not. Of course not. I like this. It's quite fascinating. So I'm a comic book and anime nerd. I don't know if you've ever seen anime or any kind of comic book things, but what's fascinating about what you're saying about mantras, interesting enough, is that in one of my favorite stories, it's a Chinese web novel. So it's a Chinese myth. And what they one of the like secret teachings in there that you come to find out is when they're doing their, let's say it's their lesser banishing ritual of whatever, or they're trying to banish a space, you at first think it's just a normal spell or a banishing ritual or something to cleanse the area. But what I've come to uncover is that that is actually in and of itself an avatar or master on a higher plane. So it kind of relates to what you're saying, fascinating enough, where when you get higher up in the hierarchy of the teachings, you come to find out that this just isn't just a sacred power word that's trying to break up the monotony of the mind, but actually you're invoking a deity while you say it. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, you are invoking, if you know the correct methodology.
Oh,
So
okay.
many of these ancient Chinese stories have a lot of hidden truth. Just for a little antidote, my teacher was a blend of, she had a Chinese father and an Indonesian mother. We used to go to Chinese kung fu movies in the 70s.
Nice.
Some were barely translated. They were in Chinese theaters, so they weren't the dubbed ones. Hey Joe, let's go get them. They were in Chinese, but many had, and my teacher would tell us some of the mythic stories that are behind some of these kung fu things, and some are very occult. And I fully believe in whether it's these things you were talking about. What is MAGA or Magna?
They're manga.
Manga.
Yeah, and it's based itself off of a Chinese web novel. Sorry, my mic was muted. But yeah,
no, that was fine. That's like, it might have been Journey to the West, because I know Alan, who arranged this for him, like, he's only 35. They follow all that kind of stuff. They try and get me to do it, right? But I'm in my late 70s, so it's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, it's so true.
But many movies and stuff, unconsciously, some occult truths sneak into it.
Yeah, they do.
So same with the comics and some of these online video game type things.
Oh,
Definitely. I mean, that's what I built my whole channel based off of, is to help people understand those truths that are stemming from our media.
Yeah, it's a good subtle way.
Yep.
I do it in an unsubtle way.
I find it I did want to say I find it interesting with the mantra, because like, even looking at the past, how I had used mantras a lot. It was to actually take on a god form. So it's interesting how, like, you said that, like, a lot of times, Judith may even know this, like, from hearing other people in the OTO doing it, or practice Thelemic magic. Sometimes you would take on the god form, and like, so for like me, I might do like lesson banishing ritual, the pentagram, banish everything. Then maybe like call later. I might even go into the hexagram, whatever. I would do all my ritual, and then, like, me, I was lucky. I was big into Egyptian gods. A lot of people say, like, take on a pose of that god. So basically, all Egyptian gods just put one foot forward and act like they're holding a staff, and you could be whoever.
Anubis in the background there.
Yeah.
So I would put so then I would visualize myself as being that god, and I would repeat their name almost in a chant as a mantra for a while, and actually visualize and whatever. And so that was even, I guess, my usage a lot.
Right. So if you understand that, what you're doing and what you're saying is that somewhere in the distant past, you have numerous Egyptian lives, and you're bringing out what we call a samskara. A samskara is a latent tendency that's within your soul, that's like hidden there, but under certain circumstances, it comes out. And so it may be what you might say modified some way, but the past repeats itself always.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Okay. And so
do it somehow.
If you've been doing Egyptian ritual, you've done them before. Therefore, there's already a link with whatever deity you feel closest to. Right. But
I even changed the middle pillar to Egyptian, because I found it, like, online, and I even did that. Yeah, I was very into Egyptian stuff.
Nice. Right. So you changed the names, is what you're saying there, Nick, to Egyptian names?
Yeah, in the middle pillar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we do Egyptian, like you see, one of the paintings behind me is Isis. She appeared to me and told me to paint her, so I painted her the best I could.
Nice. That
The
looks
string-
pretty good. It looks pretty good.
Thank you. Strangest thing is she appeared to me. I was at a Buddhist monastery called Nama Buddha in Nepal.
Oh wow,
Go
that's
figure that out.
crazy. Yeah.
Right. So I've had many experiences. Not Egypt. My wife has a lot of Egypt, but Anubis came to me. That's why I have the statue there. When we were in Egypt, the first time we traveled to Egypt, and we took a tour the first day to go to the pyramids. We were staying as close as possible to the pyramids, and we're taken through. And my wife goes on a camel, rides a camel, and we're walking around. It was really cool. Cool as it's a cool thing to do, but it was 40 degrees, which would be like 90 something if you're in the US. Anyway, so part of the tour was to take us to an Egyptian art place. They want to sell you stuff, and they show you how to make papyrus and stuff. But I'm standing in there, and all of a sudden I feel again this force come down on me. And I don't know Egyptian stuff. And I said, Anubis just came to me. And then I had to work out, when I got back to the hotel, what I call an obeisance, how to invoke Anubis. And from that, a whole line of Egyptian knowledge and ritual came from Anubis.
So have you studied any of the Golden Dawn works or anything like that? Because it just sounds, the systems you're working through, is it straight from the Theosophical tradition and Gurdjieff and things like that? Or what are we blending into this?
That's a good question, because it is a blend. A synthesis is the right word.
Yeah.
For simplicity, I tell people I do Vajrayana Buddhism. But if I talk to somebody that was following some Tibetan Vajrayana, they'd say, what? That's nothing like Vajrayana. Okay, so the Golden Dawn was external ritual. I have a huge book. See that big thick book in the center of that bookshelf? That's big Golden Dawn thing.
Yeah. Is that Regardi's big black book?
No, I
different
can't remember.
Okay, nice.
But it's not Israel Regardi.
Okay.
Anyways, their ritual is external, and they apply what's called the seventh ray, when you have several people together, and just like he was explaining a few minutes ago doing this ritual, if you have some aspect of the past, of a past life doing this, you create a dynamic force of a group of people, and you can invoke through ritual some type of entity.
Yeah, like an egregore.
Yeah, but most individuals don't recognize what the entity is, and that's where the danger is. When we started with RN long time ago, before we received the mantra of the Master Rakasi, we were wandering around just like everyone else. Try this, try that, let's do this. And we did some ritual to try and invoke through the Kabbalah. And even learned some Hebrew for it back then. And I know I have some, as I mentioned the word samskaras related to the Kabbalah. I know I've done it in the past. And we started, and we actually did invoke, but then we could feel that it was not the right kind of force. And we destroyed our ritual, and we stopped dead. So with the mantra that's given by the Master Rakasi, the deity, we know the deity, know the aspects, the purpose, and what it does. That was one of the problems, and why at the end of the Golden Dawn between McGregor Mathers and Wynne Westcott And then that other guy that came in that wanted to destroy everything.
Crowley,
Huh?
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, the energy that they invoke in the rituals goes to the wrong place.
Oh,
And it charges the wrong lower chakras, and their egos become huge.
yeah.
You know what's funny? I was going to say it goes to the head. That's
It
exactly
actually goes way below the head, then veers from
both
below
heads.
to the head.
Yeah, goes to both.
It ping pongs.
It's a piece.
If you get the analogy. Anyway.
Oh yeah, spot on. Yeah, we got that.
But that happens in occult groups too. And that's one of the reasons I'm very careful with the mantra. If you can't hold or know the secret of the Holy Grail, you can't do it. Because the secret of the Holy Grail is necessary when chanting a mantra. The real meaning of the Holy Grail. And
is that something that then not through words, but through deeds and actions, or through like a feeling instead, the secret of the Holy Grail through your understanding of what you're saying right now?
Okay. Yeah, because you can't read about it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It comes to inner knowledge. Okay, the Holy Grail in the Vajrayana is developing a secondary type of body. You have to learn how to hold the energy. The Holy Grail, the blood of the Christ, has nothing to do with blood, but it has to do with the Shakti that comes from the higher planes and has to be held somewhere and not spilt. So you have to create within yourself the Holy Grail and learn to hold the Shakti. Because most people, they have a great meditation. Wow, that's great. I feel fantastic. Then they go to a bar and have a beer, and the energy gone within 30 seconds. Or they start gossiping with their friends, if they're at an ashram, gone within 10 seconds. To build the Holy Grail, like if you build a building, big building could take a year, but it takes 10 minutes to destroy it. As above, so below. It takes a long time to build a receptacle within you that holds and maintains this Shakti energy, but by wrong action, it's destroyed very quickly. That's why in ancient times, the yogis lived in caves or in the mountains and hid away, because they didn't want external influences to break and give them an opportunity to lose this. So they hid out, right? Gurdjieff understood this, and he played with his students and had what he called a dinner for the idiots. He'd get them drunk, so their Shakti would leak out and he would steal it. He wouldn't drink. He's a bit of a dark magician, Gurdjieff, but he's awakened where Uspensky didn't understand.
And why do you make that dichotomy between those two?
There's a great difference. Uspensky was an alcoholic. You can't be an alcoholic and be awakened.
True, but can you steal somebody's loosh and be awakened?
Steal somebody's...
Oh, like their Shakti,
If when you're with them, you can share it.
Okay. So it's almost like they're being drunk is them sharing it because they were stupid enough to get drunk and give it away.
Yeah.
Sounds like Cyrus.
Like Osiris. Yeah. Nice.
There's a book called Warrior's Way by DeRope, and he spent 12 years with Uspensky and 5 with Gurdjieff. He's a scientist. He was a biochemical, whatever, Rockefeller scientist or something like that. World renowned. So he doesn't play games when he rates. And very insightful. And studied the Gurdjieff work for a long time. I do employ certain aspects of the Gurdjieff work. It's very good for self-knowledge. especially the books of Maurice Nicole, the psychological commentaries. But you have to have a certain knowledge to understand those books. Gurdjieff hid a lot. And he knew certain laws, and he used Ouspensky as his puppet.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole getting drunk thing. It's just so random. But it was a cult that we covered a long time ago called the Fellowship of Friends, and they own like a winery. And they were a cult that pushed fourth way shit on their people. So it's kind of funny how it was even, even they were messing with alcohol. Yeah, it was to the point to where they had them playing in certain keys. Like people there had to play instruments, and they were they were making them play certain music so then they could actually say certain things to them in that key to influence them. It was fucking wild.
That's wild.
What they were doing, dude. Yeah.
That reminds me actually.
Sorry, it just reminded me of the wine and fourth way and Gurdjieff.
Yeah. Well, in Tibetan Buddhism with Chogyam Trungpa, he's like the drunken monk, and Chogyam Trungpa is the one who created Dharma Ocean, right? That sits in Boulder. There's Dharma, and so it's funny that he went away from Tibetan Buddhism, all the structure of it, and then became the guy who got wasted and taught Tibetan Buddhism to white people.
Yeah, but I think he died when he was very young. But I think higher forces saw how he's destroying Buddhism.
Yeah, I agree.
Got rid of him. I met him one time. I met so many of these guys, that were famous back then.
Nice. But that's cool that you met Trungpa. I mean, you met him, and did you go to Boulder, or where'd you meet him?
Toronto.
Oh, he was in Toronto. That makes sense. Yeah. He made his people do some pretty weird stuff. And the split Trungpa is the one who kind of created a spiritual war between his son and a student. And that's where you get the difference between Shambhala and Dharma Ocean. And so Dharma Ocean.
Yeah, I just never valued what came out of there.
I don't either. I don't know. I'm just telling you that that's a fascinating spiritual war.
Yeah, I imagine it's what was his name?
Trungpa. Yep.
He was kicked out of England by the Buddhist Society, came to America, and they made him a hero.
Yeah, isn't that what we do? Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I do have a question for you. Now you say you there's very few people that you shared those powerful mantras with. And you did mention that they usually have to do 2 years of being in silence. How do you?
No, that was School of Pythagoras, which was 500 BC. No, all the people that are with me have jobs, they're professionals.
So how do they? Because those of us that go out into the world and we work, there are so many distractions and interference in that. So how do you guide them through following the path to empower themselves to get that fortitude to be able to maintain those mantras?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. I like one of the phrases that Gurdjieff did say, to be in the world, but not of it. So one of the things that I teach is actually an open secret. It's out in the open, but people can't see it. What an individual has to do is to learn how to align with their soul on the higher plane. But what is not clearly written in books, though it is there, is that the soul is dual. It has a duality. It exists on the higher mental plane that holds all your past lives, all your memory, but a portion of it is within your heart. And you have to awaken. It is not the personality that awakens. And it is this aspect, we call it the essential nature or the essence. You have to be able to separate it from your personality. Remember, the Latin of personality is persona, which means to hide. So our personalities, which grow up through society, hides that true part of our being that we're born with, is our essence. That is one of the best parts of the Gurdjieff teaching, even though it exists in the Bailey teaching, etc. So when you awaken your essence, or in the process of it, and you start to experience it, the strange thing is sometimes when you touch it and get the knowledge that's there, you see that what it wants, this soul life, is very different than what your personality wants. Because it's your true being, and it holds your true purpose.
It sounds like you're speaking of the death of the ego.
Of the what?
The ego.
Oh, not the death. No, you cannot kill the ego.
I'm sorry, but
Well, it's interesting because it's like I practice Buddhism as well. So I practice Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism. And it's kind of like the 10 factors, right? Like you have your nature, your entity, your appearance, and then you go out in the world and you have relations with everything. And like that innate power that you have inside of you is what the effect will be. Will that thing change you? Will you change that thing? Will you be able to maintain that balance? Like I like where you're going with that.
Okay.
Because it reminds me of that.
So eventually, as this essence awakens, you realize where your identifications are. If you at work and all of a sudden somebody gets you upset, as soon as you get angry, you want to yell at your work person, then you have to realize that you're going to lose your energy. You have to stop, try and withdraw, focus even for a few seconds, and not get angry. The choice is always yours. That great saint of Vajrayana, Milarepa from Tibet, said the moment you become angry and identify, you drop to the lower planes, which means you lose your energy and you drop into the lower worlds. So the real test, as Kavya was saying, is creating this inner balance, right? And that takes years, right? And some people awaken to it faster and some slower. It's a real test. And it's through meditation, study, and what we call group service. There are 3 aspects to group service. The first service is service to your soul. That is number 1. Because your soul holds your true purpose and your relationship to humanity. So many people want to do so much for humanity, but do nothing. By aligning to your soul, you are not only helping yourself, you're helping the group, you're helping the group that has not incarnated yet on the inner planes. Plus, there's more to it. So the first service is service to your soul. If you're in a group, the second service is to the group. Taking part and fulfilling the functions of the group, doing the meditations. So everybody in the group, there's different tiers, but at each tier, they all do the same meditation. One in the upper tier will do a certain type of, it's really Tantra. And the one in the second tier will be similar, but not the same. And then the third will be much different. But fulfilling your group work, studying, we study the same books, and coming to the group meetings regularly. So like tomorrow is full moon, we have a full moon meditation. I rent a Tai Chi place. We usually get about 20 people in the group that come. And the third service is to humanity. But I'm not rich. Nobody in the group, well, there's one lady, she may be rich. I don't know yet, but she's very new. But a person who's very wealthy can use their money to do a lot. Usually people who have a lot of wealth don't do a lot except for themselves. So through doing step number 1, service to your soul, and the group work, you are serving humanity. For instance, there was a story, I can't remember the exact name, that there was this yogi, a great lamas, And this villager found him sitting on these rocks. And so the villager ran down to the village and said, there's a saint meditating on these rocks near the top of the mountain. So the whole village comes up there, and they bow down, etc. And they say to him, "Oh, great yogi, please come to our village. We'll feed you. We'll give you a temple. You can bless us and look after us." And the yogi opens his eyes and says, "Why? From here, I bless the world." Right? So there are different degrees, okay, and different purposes in this particular group work. We've been very fortunate in Northern School to be blessed by several masters and aligned and given teachings that are not in the books. And the trouble is there's a cost to all that. Not a dollar cost, but a cost of creating that inner balance and discipline. There was one lady in the group, very young lady, and she's a bit wild, even though she has a very good corporate job, but she resisted, stuck with the group, but resisted discipline, but eventually came to the point where she had to be disciplined. Then she finally said to me, "Now I understand discipline. It creates order and harmony in your life. I thought it was restrictive. It's not restrictive. It creates freedom. Because now I understand myself, I understand my urges, how things function, and now my life is ordered. Everything works better. I'm much happier." And interesting enough, she started getting more promotions. Everything started to change. And I always told her, if you're aligned to the inner ashram, in this particular case with our group of the Master Rakasi, they look after the external for you. When I was working, I'm retired now, I would get promotions, stuff. I never asked, they just came. Because my focus was always my esoteric work. And for a time, I was traveling across North America for the company. I worked for a Texas oil company, small offshoot, but here in Canada. So I'm all over, but I'd still get up earlier before meetings, meditate, go back to the hotel, do my meditation, have my books, have a traveling altar, etc. So did my job. And everything works out good. And it seems to do that with most of the individual, or I can say almost all the individuals in the group. Right? Because then you're aligned to a higher purpose. So the secondary purpose is taken care of. Doesn't make it easier. It just works that way because you never know what's going to happen. Right? But the esoteric work is not easy. One of the most difficult things people want, they talk about liberation. In our group, we're not interested in liberation or nirvana or any of that, or peace, or even peace in that respect. What happens is that you become aware of your past lives. And with your past lives, you find that there's karmic links, what they call ripening karma between you and other members. This karma has to be worked out. And that takes a lot of effort, cleaning the slate, so to speak. You become aware of it in your inner meditation. In my second book, Esoteric Writings, my wife wrote a chapter on, I love the name of it, but I forget it sometimes. I think it's, let's see if I can find it. It's basically here it is. Lives I've lived and the people I can't get away from. Because it all repeats. And she goes through, because she sees the past lives of many of the individuals in the group. And she only names a few of them. fascinating. A few years ago, we were in Vienna, my wife and I, traveling. And she decided to go for a walk. And I meditate longer than she does. And she went for a walk. And then she didn't come back for some time. I got a little worried. Finally, she came back. And she said she ran into this building, saw this building. And as soon as she saw it, she almost passed out. Because she all of a sudden remembered she being a little girl there and the Nazis coming and taking her family. Right? Chilling experience. And so there was a little church across the road. She wanted to go in this church, but a voice told her no. She had to enter in the building. It had a little courtyard because it was very old. And it was refurbished, but they still had the old court. And sit and meditate and look at it. That's the occultist, the warrior. Not to run away, but to face it. Right? And to see. We have many experiences like that. A funny experience, give another example, it's a little different. My wife and I were in Puerto Rico, and I don't know if you've ever been to Puerto Rico, but there's a really old fort there. I think it's the oldest fort in North America, built in the 1700s or something by the Spanish there a long time ago. It's a museum now, of course. So we're wandering through this place and we sort of get separated. I'm reading the history of it. She comes running to me. She says, there's this ghost that's been chasing me. It looks like a pirate. And I said, well, did you try chanting? He says, somehow it's not working. So I focus on a particular deity that can destroy all ghosts. And she said, oh, it's running away. So, I didn't see it, but I could feel. She could see it's running away. She said it looked like Captain Morgan on the rum whiskey bottle. So you go places and all these things happen. You know, so it makes things.
Yeah. I was going to say about you were telling us before about your cave experience. I had a similar experience when I was in Bali. I was just laying in bed and on the compound, there was like nobody there. It was just me. And all of a sudden there was this huge whoosh that just like ran into the door and I heard stomping on the roof. And in my mind's eye, I saw this bull with this ring in its nose. And so I did my chanting and because I was freaked out, but I was like, don't give it my energy. Don't give it my fear. I'm just going to chant. I'm going to calm myself. And like it, obviously didn't bother me or anything like that, but it was pretty wild. And your experience with the cave reminded me of that. I don't know if you want to tell the cave story.
That's very good. And that's very common in those islands. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of what we call left-hand path magic in Bali and Jakarta, Indonesia.
Yep.
So to give an example also, my poor wife, because she's so psychic. We're in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. And this is in my book. And we went back to our hotel. And all of a sudden she becomes very erratic. She actually gets up and starts to run out of the hotel room. I'm saying, sweetie, what's going on? What? Oh, I don't know. Well, you sit down. We better meditate. So she's just, we're going to run out in the street without money, without her purse. What's going on? So I sit down and I invoke one of the masters. Actually, the master is known as KH. And he comes instantly. And he says, I can't deal with this, but this Egyptian master will come and deal with it. And instantly, this ancient Egyptian master, who's maybe 3,000 or 4,000 years old. And my wife ends up lying down on the bed, and she felt like he put a vacuum in her and pulled out some negative entities that had entered her in the Valley of the Kings. She said it was like an occult surgery. And then she felt better, but she had to rest just like after surgery. So, that's in the book. So things like that, but that is not the occult path. But as you make progress, you run into this. You become enter into these inner worlds, and you have to learn how to protect. My job is protecting most of the individuals in the group. When something happens, then I'm allowed to invoke these masters. And some of the other individuals now can also invoke them. But all of our knowledge and some of our esoteric stuff stays within what we call the inner ashram, our group, and the ashram on the inner plane that we belong to. But what I put in the books is to help individuals who want to go deeper, to give them some examples of experiences that are possible, but also with the teaching that can go deeper. In India, there's an ancient teaching called the Four Vidyas. If you read Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, it's mentioned in the Alice Bailey books, Treatise on Cosmic Fires, that there are four vidyas. One is called Mahavidya, Guhya Vidya, and just forgot the third one, Yajna Vidya. But then there is a fourth and synthesizing Vidya called Atma Vidya. Mahavidya is the magics, the knowledge of the inner magics. Guhya Vidya is the knowledge of the sacred sounds. Yajna Vidya is the knowledge of rituals, now everything involved rituals. Atma Vidya blends them all, and that's the core of the teaching that I give. It's called Atma Vidya. We have a mandala, and that's what I got from my teacher, was the Atma Vidya teaching. And about 6-7 years ago, the master KH appeared to me and told me that I had to go to the Theosophical Society. Well, I hadn't been to the Theosophical Society in 30 or 40 years, and I avoided it like the plague. To me, the Theosophical Society is in a state of comatose.
Agreed.
Except for the libraries, there's nothing there. Yeah. I even went to a thing eventually in Wheaton, Illinois, and I was so disappointed. Anyways. So I didn't want to go, but the master suggested it, and I discussed it with my wife, and I went. And for about 6 or 7 months, it was like torture. I knew some of the people from ages ago. I just knew that they just weren't anywhere. But slowly, I was able to start my own little group, and then my students started to arrive. And at a certain point, I left again with the group. And now it's been a year and change, and we're functioning just fine away from the Theosophical Society. The only thing I miss is in Toronto, they have a fabulous library, but by listening to the inner command or suggestion from the master, by following it, then everything happened. And I hadn't heard from him for a long time. And then he came again after I left the Theosophical. He said to go online. I have a lot of difficulty. I'm a lot older, not used to it. I'm adjusted. It's been a couple of years now that we're doing online, getting better. But things are happening because you follow this inner suggestion. What a lot of people don't realize is sometimes you get these inner suggestions, but then another, using a Gurdjieff term, group of eyes come up and say, was that real? Is that right? Should I do that?
Yeah, I have it like that often where I'm just, I know it's like hard to distinguish sometimes. It's like, is that somebody trying to get in my head to get me to do something and go somewhere? You know what I mean? Like, or is this actually something I need to be doing? I run into that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's what they call viveka in Sanskrit, spiritual discrimination. To give another example, I was in my car, I was working at the time, zipping along the highway, probably at about 80 miles an hour. We have higher speed limits here. Anyway, and all of a sudden there's this force that comes through me and says, I have to be in India in 2 months. What? How am I going to arrange that? And then the thought, well, was this real? And I'm supposed to go to a particular place, and all the doubts came up, but I went, and I had some amazing changes that occurred that helped me. They come and
That's
you
how I
have
ended
to,
up.
to catch
That's
it.
how I ended up in Bali too. Was the exact same thing. I had 1 month. It was like, I'm going to go to Bali, and I was like, all right, if the ticket comes, if everything unfolds, I'll go. And it was like within a month, and it was very similar experience to that. The most magical things happen, and it is interesting.
Must have past life there too.
Yeah.
So that gives a bit of an idea. I don't know if you have any questions. I've been rambling.
You guys got anything you want to ask?
Yeah, let's I'm interested on how well so your space in your school is in Toronto, and so if people wanted to look more into it, they would have to go to Toronto to then be trained or learn, or what does that kind of look like to be able to go figure out if somebody is in a good you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
So they can go online. And that's why I have esoteric talks twice a month. So I have a student in Los Angeles, somewhere in Illinois, several other states, I forget, Brooklyn, somebody in Brooklyn. So most of them, except for one, are moving slower, but I can recognize when someone may be ready to take a next step or something like that. So there's the online, there's esoteric talks, and then on the next coming Friday, we have a book study online. And we're just finishing up Letters on Occult Meditation, which is such an excellent book in direction meditation. And then we're going to move to another book by March 17th, I believe, The Initiations and the Rays, again, an Alice Bailey book. But I'll point something out. The Alice Bailey books are really good. They're deeper than most people understand because they have the influence of a master. So they reach and they have different levels. And the Master DK, who used Alice Bailey, even points it out that he uses blinds, and until you're ready, you can miss a great deal. But because of the difficulties, you have to blend other teachings. So we use Alice Bailey, number one, certain aspects of the Gurdjieff teaching, used in Search for the Miraculous and psychological commentaries. We do Vajrayana Buddhism, but focus a lot on the 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. In his songs, he hid the teachings. And we also really focus on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, because there you have the delineation, first of meditation from the level of pratyahara to withdraw, then dharana, what is meant by occult focusing, and then dhyana, which is real meditation, and then to samadhi, what is samadhi, and how you move from one plane to the next plane. Plus, it talks about the motion of the psychology of the mind, which are called vritti. Everything that exists in this universe is in motion. Nothing is still. Thus, you have to understand motion. Motion is based on three factors: tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is slow, thick, dull motion. Rajas, fast, quick motion. And sattva, harmonious motion. How to move your mind and to change the vrittis, the motion, what they call the modifications of the mind. So we synthesize all that, throw in a little bit of Egyptian, a little bit of Kabbalah once in a while. But I use the tree of life to show that it blends with the Hindu teaching exactly. And there's a secret that they call the Buddhist Kabbalah, which is very hidden. And it blends also with the tree of life. Also based on the number 11. The tree of life is 10 plus da'ath,
Yeah.
which is 11.
Yeah, the hidden Sephirah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sorry, I have a question. So it's fascinating that you kind of use Bailey's work, but then at the same time use other works because of certain things. What do you say to people who come and ask you about the controversy about Alice Bailey, especially because she was not really well liked by Annie Besant and the Theosophical Society?
I've never had anybody even know about Annie Besant.
Okay. Yeah, nice. I mean, nice. That's the first thing I think of is because Alice Bailey, a lot of people think that she was like somebody who deeply pushed the New Age movement with a lot of her books and teachings. And especially there's controversy and conspiracy about her having a space in the UN, which is kind of why I made a joke about it earlier, is there's conspiracies about it. And so I just wonder how you deal with those types of things. Doesn't
Never
look like you have
had
an
it.
issue. So nice, good.
Most
good
of the
for you.
people never heard of the young people. I have one now, she's 27. She had never heard of these things, but she's drawn to meditation.
That's good.
Right? Which is nice. I'm pretty up in all those things, or used to be, because my teacher, he excelled in the knowledge of that. And he used to tell me these stories about the TS, etc., and everything. But I judged the teaching, not the personality. Even Milarepa and other great teachers said, you can find faults with the Buddha if you really want to try and find it. But it's the teaching that counts, not the personality. Yeah. It's only if the personality, like a Trungpa, is drinking and doing whatever he's doing. And for instance, in Pennsylvania, I forget what it's called, but years ago I went to an ashram there, and it was run by Swami Rama.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. We read a book by him, and my teacher was going on a business trip to New York. I was drive to Pennsylvania, then I'll go from Pennsylvania to New York, pick him up, and we drive home together instead of flying. Anyway, so I go, and when I get there, I end up coming late. They send me to the dining room. Everybody's eating. There's one chair available, and I sit next to this lady. We have a little bit of a conversation. Finished dinner, I'm tired. I go back to my room. 20 or 30 minutes later, there's a knock on my door. I open it. There's this lady. She said, when we were talking, you said you're going to New York in a day or so. I said, yeah. Can you take me with? I have to escape this place. Oh. So why? Well, I'm an accountant here. I'm one of the accountants that help run the ashram. And one day when Swami Rama was in India and he was coming back, he asked if I would pick him up at the airport. And that's a great blessing. It's a darshan. It's all this emotion. So she picked him up. And as they're coming back towards the ashram, he says, I don't want to go to the ashram yet. I want to cool down. Let's go to a motel. And she, a young, very attractive, very busty lady, oh, okay, let's go. I guess and he starts watching TV and smoking. Then he raped her. When he died, I read in the New York Times, there was numerous lawsuits by women against him. When I went to meet him the next day, and then I left with this lady, but I asked him, well, what do you think of the Alice Bailey teachings? And garbage, nonsense. He was so arrogant. And yet he was idolized by people across the United States and in Canada. He came to Canada. So there are so many of these false gurus. It's so unfortunate. And he was a big name. His ashram was beautiful in the Poconos. It was huge. And so I took that lady and took her home. I don't know if that story's in my book. It might be.
Yeah.
But I ran into things like that all over. Trumpa being the case, another case, and
Yeah.
a few others. But there was good ones.
Mhm.
Like the Zen school in Rochester with Philip Kapleau. He's a good guy. He died quite a while ago, but he had a good school. He was a good guy. You know, he didn't play around, or he was odd, but
Yeah, it's like a true character thing. Like you always have to see yourself, you know? And that's what I always run into, like with everything going on in the world. People will do what they do. They're the only ones that ever have to live with those consequences fully, you know? And if that's what feels good to their soul, I guess, right? But yeah,
you pay the karma.
exactly. It's like if that's what you really want to karmically live by, it's your choice. But it's
So one
sad.
thing you have to look at, if you're a spiritual teacher, say you rob a bank, right? You get caught, you go to jail. But that's related to matter. You screw with the souls of others. You're creating a different type of karma. You become a deceiver of souls, what they called in Greece the Busiris, the deceivers. There was this one yogi, and he was connected to the United Nations, Sri Chinmoy. I will take you, believe in me, and I will be the boat that'll carry you to the other shore. Believe in me. It's the perfect words of a soul deceiver, which he was. You know, so you have to be careful. I think about it all the time when I'm dealing with my students. Am I doing it correctly? Am I helping their soul? Right? How to be kind, gentle, humble, and yet teach and have a certain firmness and give correct knowledge. So you don't want them going, whoa, because it has happened. I have met people that have gone loony. Right? The Tibetans in the deeper esoteric Vajrayana said Vajrayana is like a two-headed snake in a bamboo pole. One's head up and one down. You either go one way or the other. Interesting imagery.
Anybody have any other questions before I ask them something? No. One thing I did want to ask you, Cyrus.
Yes.
I guess, and I might wrap it up after this. What's the biggest misconception you think people have about the deeper esoteric path? And what's the truth you wish they'd accept early?
That's not an easy question. A lot of people are under the impression, I can do it. But the deeper esoteric path, the I has to be thinned out. And that's why I teach about the essence. We usually have, because I worked in corporate world. I was also an art teacher, but you build your I. I am a salesman. I am a bricklayer. I am, a doctor. That's an I. And it's big. Look at how many people, when they retire, how much difficulty they have because that I can't function anymore. I'm no longer the plumber. I have to sit around my house and continually fix this kitchen sink because you identify with that I. That is the biggest thing, and it takes a long time to break that I down, to realize that one has to learn surrender to these higher forces, that you are being guided and taken, and that's not easy to do. Therefore, people like the tarot or some of these other more pseudo occult things, because their I enjoys throwing the cards and assumes that they're helping other people. Right? I was an astrologer for a while, and I had to stop because people were expecting the stars to give them the stamp of approval. One of the last charts I did, this lady came in, I did the chart, looked at it and said, holy cow. And I know her and her husband because we work in the same company. She's going to leave her husband. It's right there. Holy cow. But I can't tell her that. I don't have the right. So she kept pushing me about her marriage. I said, well, difficulties, this and that, well, you can try and patch it up. She left her husband 2 weeks later. It was there. And I wasn't going to tell her to give her the stamp of approval of her Gemini rising with whatever. And that was the last chart I really did. I do some just to see. I know some esoteric astrology that's not in books that I was taught. And I look for certain types of conjunctions and with fixed stars that can tell me some things about an individual, especially if there's danger of a certain nature of individuals that's hidden. But that's not in any books, and I never shared it. Still won't. My teacher was an amazing astrologer. He looked every day to see conjunctions and everything, to see what different beings connected on the inner astral planes would be affecting him because of this. People think what happens is on the outside. I told people 3 or 4 years ago, if Trump was reelected, he's animated by a destroyer. A huge destroyer is using it, and he will be destructive. I wrote that up. People weren't interested, but it's come true.
That's right. No new wars.
Pardon?
No new wars, right?
Yeah, we're not in a war, right? Yeah.
What was it? What did he say? Barack Obama was a horrible president. Or no, he was saying to somebody. It was funny today. I saw clips about how he was shitting on somebody else, saying that if they had to go to war with Iran, it showed that they were shitty and couldn't just strike a deal.
Yeah, it's that they're weak.
I guess he just told on himself. I don't know.
Jon Stewart said a couple of cool things the other day where he showed Trump saying we obliterated their nuclear program. And then, what was that, a couple of months ago? And now he's saying, well, we've got to destroy the nuclear. It's just, but Jon Stewart's pretty good. He says. Anyways, but,
Yes.
if people are interested in my book or my website, I'm more than happy.
Let everybody know about those again, please. If you don't mind.
So Esoteric Writings, Teaching for the Aquarian Age, has quite a bit about the masters in it at the beginning. My wife wrote, and another lady, about past lives, but I put in a lot of teachings, both Gurdjieff, also a couple of essays. There were talks by my teacher. My first book has more of my experiences, like the one I talked to you guys about in the cave. I had a few others. I don't know if there's time. I can tell you my favorite story, how I got kicked out of the largest city in India, escorted by the police.
Well, you can't not tell us that story.
I'll do it really quickly.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Calcutta's probably 20 or 30 million people. They can't count them. There's so many people. My teacher told me to go to this place called Balurmoth, which is in a suburb of Calcutta called Hayworth. And it's a temple complex created, you may have heard of Vivekananda. He's very well known. He was a disciple of Ramakrishna.
Yeah, the Raja Yoga. We study his
Yeah, that book Raja Yoga. So I have it too. Anyways, so he said they may be a little difficult there, but try and stay there. It's a huge place. So I went into the office, came up to the desk, and the guy, excuse me, but and then what do you want? Well, I'd like to stay here. I've studied everything about Ramakrishna. I'm vegetarian. I meditate, blah, blah, blah. And they just looked at me and said, no. Well, my teacher stood here a long time ago. No, you can't stay. Well, I really want to. I'm here now. I can donate money. No. So I just sat down right there on the floor and started meditating. I did not move. That freaked them out. So after a while, I still hadn't moved. A man came in a Swami robe, those orange robes. He said, excuse me, sir, I'm the manager in this area. What would you like? Why don't you come into my office? I went to his private office, told him that I wanted to stay there. He said, no, you can't. So I just started meditating again. He walked out of the office. A few minutes later, he came back. Okay, the head of the monastery will meet you. Why don't you come with me? Sure. So it's a long walk. And we're walking, we come to a group of buildings, and I could see a courtyard, and there's a guy that has one of those naval desks, those huge, big wooden desks, big fat swami. Anyways, we walk right by him, and I could tell that's the guy. Why aren't we going there? So they take me to this porch that's overlooking the Ganges River, and he says, "You sit here and wait." So I fold up my feet and sit in meditation pose and continue to meditate. Finally, somebody taps me on my knee, and they have lunch for me in a traditional Indian metal tray with veggies, and very nice. So I eat my food. I go back meditating, and I'm meditating. Then all of a sudden I go into a state of samadhi. That means I enter into a higher state of a field of blue. I can only call it blueness, where I'm an independent thought of individuality. There's no Cyrus. But I could see my future and the deity and the direction. And here I'm at in a Hindu place. It said I'm Buddhist, and that I had to follow this particular line of Buddhism. This is before the masterocracy and everything, so I had no idea. Okay, so I come down off of that, and I'm still meditating. Then beside me, there's a wall, and there's a knock. And I open my eyes. There's a policeman, but he introduced, I'm the captain, chief of police for this area. He has all of his medals on. He's in full regalia. What do you want? I want to stay here. It's really nice. I don't think that's possible. I said, let me think. So he's very polite, actually more polite than the swamis. He goes down, there's a bathing gat, and he sits down in the bathing gat. And I meditate a bit. And then I realized I achieved what I had come for. I now know my direction. The future was shown. And I open my eyes, and I see smoke coming out of the gat. And I go down and sit beside him. He says, okay, I'll leave, but I want a train, a first-class ticket from Calcutta to Chennai, which is like 1,200 miles or more. So he says, follow me. Go ahead, his Jeep is there. So this is 1977. He has a full military walkie-talkie. Gets on the walkie-talkie. There's no cell phones or anything like that. Okay, hop in the Jeep, we'll go. We get to the train station. I have a first-class ticket, put into a first-class cabin. There's a big guy sitting on the chair opposite, because it's like a big room. It can hold 4 people in the first class. Oh, I say to him, are you going to Chennai too? He says, no, I'm just supposed to stay here so you don't jump off. So I got an escort out of Calcutta. He was huge. And that's in my first book, in this Living on the Inner Edge. But it also has a section on meditations, how to do them. It has some very cool diagrams that you won't find anywhere, that are stuff like this. One is a Zen from the Cao Tsung Zen sect. Another one's written based on how a mantra functions, from the logos down to the personality, drawn by my teacher. And there's quite a number of those. I didn't put them in my new book, but there's the total of what it's called The Great Work. It has a lot of Sanskrit though, but shows our human psychology from an esoteric point of view. So cool stuff like that.
That's cool.
My other book has more pictures. I don't know if I can find it fast enough, but one of the paintings I did of the masters, I know it's at the front of the book somewhere. I never find it when I want to show people.
I know, isn't that how it works though? You're like,
Yeah.
I remember this amazing thing. Where is it?
Yeah. Just, yeah.
And where can people buy these books?
So Amazon, of course.
Okay.
Um,
Nice.
Barnes
Should they
and
buy them
Noble.
on your website? Yeah.
No, because it's not self-published.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. Gotcha.
My first book didn't sell as well. It was a British publisher, so he didn't do my second book. I had to find someone else. He's out of England, Axis Mundi Publishing. But it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, maybe other places,
Okay.
etc. It still sells. I get notifications. This one, because it's a lot longer, it's 300 and some odd, or 300, I think. Yeah, 360, 50 pages. I published it in India through an Indian
wow.
publishing company. But they're connected all over the world. Quality is not the same as in Britain, but it's cheaper.
Nice.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
So it's available. Whoops. It has some interesting charts and some diagrams. I did a whole chart, like in Theosophy, you have the first initiation, second initiation, third initiation. But I also showed it in the Gurdjieff terminology, like third initiation is man number 5. And in the Hindu, third initiation is Mahayog. And in Buddhism, it's Sadak Agramin. So all this different terminology, same thing. Type of thing. So there's a lot to learn in it. Right.
And you did all the writing?
Yes. Except there's a chapter
By your wife. Your wife did the chapter. Yeah.
On past lives. And
Nice.
one of my students also on their past lives.
That's cool.
Right. The beginning is more stories of what the group is doing now and the experiences with the masters and some of the other beings that we have experiences with that are called nagas or dragons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That hold wisdom and knowledge and power.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so, and
Nice.
then teaching. But this has been fun. I've enjoyed the
Yeah,
conversation.
definitely. You got stories for days too.
Yeah, I could talk on. I'm terrible.
It's great.
No, we love stories. This
Yeah,
is why we're here.
Yeah, that's
Never got around to sleep. What is it? Sleep.
Well, sleep paralysis or the astral paralysis or something like that. You said.
Yeah.
Yeah, next time.
What it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Next time we'll talk about that one.
Remind me. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I'll bring that up first.
Okay. Well, I hope to come back at some time.
Yes, no, definitely. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. So I'll have everybody else plug their stuff as well. Judith, what is going on, Loon?
Once again, thank you for having me. Cyrus, it was a pleasure. We could go deep dive on several different topics.
I'm sure.
To leave a bug in your ear, is have you thought about the similarities between Mott and your teachings? The teachings
Between
of Mott,
what? I couldn't
the
catch
Egyptian
the word.
goddess Mott.
Oh,
Mott.
for sure. I have a
Mott.
whole Egyptian section.
Oh, nice.
We have an occult encyclopedia, which we don't share. So it has Buddhist, Hindu, Egyptian, and other type of entities.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that.
That's definitely a conversation I would love to have with you.
I don't share. I can share certain parts of it, but other parts I can't.
Gotcha.
My wife is very
I
Egyptian.
completely understand that.
Yeah, she has all these memories from ancient Egypt.
Ah.
That was awesome. All right. Well, Judith.
Nick, I'd like to thank you.
Yeah, Judith,
for-
plug your stuff.
I'd like to thank you for having me on. And
Of course.
you can find me on YouTube and the Loon under the Loon. And thank you again. This was great.
Oh, hell yeah, it was blessed. Thank you. And Brandon, my man.
My man, Nick, thank you so much. As always, love doing this. Love meeting new people. Sir, that was fantastic. You are wise beyond your years as it goes through. Your stories are amazing. And we're just gonna have to have storytelling with you the next time. Just continue down these paths, because we can learn so much through actual experience of people. And you're so well traveled as well. And so I appreciate all those stories, sir.
I'm not wise beyond my years because I think my years have caught up to me.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, you can tell, even though you got the glasses on, I can tell your eyes are young. You know, that's the wisdom.
Thank you.
As everybody go over to Magus in the Media. We'll be dropping a bunch of videos this week. I've got Dr. Heather Lynn's video finally dropping. It's a 3-hour banger. We hit all the keys of Anunnaki, Enlil, and Enki, all the way to Epstein, Steve Bannon. We hit all the notes, and she's got a lot of knowledge to give. So everyone check out that tomorrow. It should be coming out. Just hit my Instagram, my X, and just subscribe, like, and share, because we're trying to grow a community. I'm on the Cult Rejects. There's nothing like being a reject, especially in the occult. Nick, the Godfather, Grand Master, Cardinal Electric Head himself, brilliant all the time. So just make sure you're following everything he does at all times. I give it up to him. Thank you, Nick, as always.
I appreciate that, man. I love it. I appreciate you coming on and always asking great questions and stuff. So thank you. Kaiva, what is going on? Thank you so much for making it today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And this was a wonderful conversation. I really, really enjoyed hearing everything that you're doing with your group and your book, Cyrus. It sounds fantastic. And you all can find me at Kaiva Rose on Instagram and YouTube. I do weekly and daily astrology videos for everybody. I also do personal readings, and I also read tarot as well. So it was wonderful to chat with you all. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you. And I guess Cyrus, we already spoke to him. I did want to give a shout out for the super chats. Howard 8888. I mean, that was ridiculous. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And then Tiffany 11 sent us a super chat as well. So, and I did want to thank Alan for hooking us up with Cyrus.
Yeah, I have to thank him. I actually sent him a thank you. But I think he does sumo wrestling or something tonight. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Nice.
He's really into martial. I got them into martial arts, but they found that karate was hurting their knees. So
it's sumo. That's great.
So him and his wife both do sumo.
That's
sumo
awesome.
And judo.
Cool.
Where I did karate for 40 years.
Nice.
And I can barely walk.
Probably fix some mess up, you have to.
But thank you very much. I enjoyed this a lot. And I really appreciate all the nice questions and interest.
Thank you very much, sir. And again, thank you all the rejects for coming on the show. And everybody in the chat, that is what's up. I appreciate it. We go live. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.
Bye-bye.